house.
Oh, yay, there he is. Now we just get you up on the screen here. Here he comes. I can hear you.
Are we?
There we are. Yay. How are you doing?
I'm awesome, Michelle. Thank you so much. I'm a little concerned because everybody already said everything I was going to say. So
But no one has your story.
that's true.
This is
But some
true.
people have an equivalent story. So that's
Everyone has a story, and that's what's the most important thing. And that message that we get to share, like everyone's story is important. Every single person's important.
ain't it the truth. So true.
And I'm so grateful to have you here. It's been, whoa, amazing days so far.
You see this? This is notes that I've been taking since the beginning of this thing, and it's remarkable. I mean, so many truths, so much wisdom. Mandy blew my away. Mandy, you were awesome. If you're still around, bravo to you. And I definitely want to learn more about your thing. And I got a lot out of listening to Vince earlier too. I got a lot of notes from that talk as well. So thanks for inviting me to be part of this. I'm so thrilled. I'm still grieving the loss of my beautiful dog, but I'm learning a lot from that process too. But I have to show you a picture.
Oh, so look at him. He's adorable. Woody.
That's Woody. That's
Oh
us in front of the Lincoln Memorial. You see, there's
Oh,
Abe looking at us.
so good. See, you know what? He's traveled the world with you. He's done so much with you. I'm gonna introduce a little bit more so everybody knows who this amazing man is that we have joining us today. And I'm so grateful to have you here. And I need to make sure I'm saying your last name properly too as well. Dr. Steve Taubman, is that correct?
Taubman, yeah.
Taubman. No, you have to correct it. That's our name. It's Taubman, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Is a best-selling author and world-class speaker, has dedicated his life to showing people how to thrive through their challenges. He's written exclusively on application of
Contemplative?
Thank you. I'm like, that was like,
I like to make this hard for my hosts as much as
getting that word out. Contemplative practices in stressful situations. Okay, example. I'm not stressed though. It's like we're in it. It's good. And has spoken worldwide on mindset mastery for goal-oriented and helping professionals. Having endured crippling anxiety, low self-esteem early in life, Steve has made it his mission to understand the nature of happiness. I love it. And the remedy for emotional turmoil. His search led him to neurology, holistic health, mindfulness, positive psychology, and hypnosis. We are so diving into that one.
Okay. Yeah.
Each of these disciplines is represented by Dr. I want to say Taubman. That's my block.
Taubman.
Dr. Taubman. Dr. Steve. I'm calling you Dr. Steve, okay?
That's what everybody calls me for that very reason, I think.
Dr. Steve's system for living a balanced life, free of neurosis and rich in accomplishment. Oh, I love that. Dr. Steve's work includes his best-selling book, Unhypnotized.
Hypnosis.
Unhypnosis. Okay, I'm telling you, I'm dyslexic, and when I have to read something, unhypnosis. This is good.
There you go.
Awesome. We are going to talk about that. And his sales mastery program, the magic of inner selling, his online productivity masterpiece, procrastination, annihilation. Get rid of it. That's what you mean, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And his latest book on thriving through stress on life's battlefields, Bulletproof. He also has written hundreds of articles for major publications and has produced specialized hypnotic programs for business professionals to remove mental barriers to success. Oh my God, I can't wait to talk about all of this. Dr. Steve continues to enrich his understanding of the science of happiness and its impact on achievement. And I know we were talking earlier about your side amazing Woody, who is now in puppy heaven somewhere, I'm sure, because he's a little saint. And the lessons and life lessons and love that you've had from that little fuzzy guy who I know has been your compadre for a long time. So I know I'm grateful you're here because we get to also talk about that and that grieving process of losing your best buddy too. So, but we will get into that. And I'm just so grateful to have you here.
Well, I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you for having me.
And I wanted to tell everyone, it's cool. You're a doctor of chiropractic.
Yeah.
right? Because my dad and two brothers were chiropractors, and I always joke that my dad kept me in line in more than one way. So being proactive health. So tell us a little bit about your journey, Dr. Steve, because you started down the chiropractic route. You said you overcame. Now, was this before you became a chiropractor, overcoming, the stress and anxiety? Share a little bit about that, a little bit about your story.
I Anxiety, low self-esteem, insecurity, depression were things that I dealt with for a long time from childhood on. And one of the things that I suspected or hoped when I became a professional was that all that stuff was going to go away, right? That once I was accomplished, then the accomplishment would in and of itself create a resolution of all my self-esteem issues and all my anxiety. And it didn't. And I realized that there are different paths that we need to walk in our lives. Our professional path is one of our paths, and the way that we show up as as professionals is one thing that we can aspire to, but it doesn't necessarily mean that if you're moving in that direction that you're also simultaneously doing the inner work.
Right.
So it required that I turn a corner and start doing the inner work and figuring out what was it that was keeping me from being able to embrace the experience, because I was successful. I did well in practice, but I carried a lot of pain with me. So that started a journey for me that took me in a lot of different directions, both Eastern and Western psychology, and most importantly, mindfulness. More than anything else, the thing that I would say has had the biggest impact on me is my mindfulness journey, learning how to meditate, learning how to be present and in the moment, and learning how to, what Mandy was saying, take the little wins and gradually make those into the bigger wins.
Hmm.
And that process has done so much for me, not just in terms of inner happiness, but also in terms of being able to be more effective or efficient in the things that I do.
Yeah, absolutely. So take us a bit on your journey, because you're talking about, yeah, for sure. Like, I think you probably know through your practice, but so many of our um, patterns we create at a young age,
That's right.
and then we hang on to those and not even really realizing what those patterns are and how they can be either empowering or disempowering. And so a lot of your work, like going from being a chiropractor and then now into hypnosis and understanding the mind part of it, um, maybe share how you shifted from that into that work and what was the catalyst for that.
When you say shifting out of chiropractic, are you saying, or shifting out of
It's
that being?
was that question clear? To get into the work of understanding the mind and hypnosis, what did you find? Like, maybe share a couple stories around that with your experiences with around hypnosis.
Well, while I was in chiropractic, I also started studying NLP, which is a branch of hypnosis. I did a lot of work with Tony Robbins, did the fire walk and all that sort of thing. So I started on my journey of personal empowerment while I was still in practice. And I started to contemplate aspects of hypnosis, of reframing, all the different, mastery of the mind while I was still in practice. But eventually I came to a point where I wanted to leave practice behind. I didn't really know why. I just knew that it was time for me to move on. I had a very successful practice on outwardly, but there was something else that was calling to me. So I ended up leaving my practice, taking a year off, kind of re-exploring my life, traveling and doing kind of a vision quest. And when I re-emerged from that place, I started being fascinated by hypnosis. And that was a really big thing, because as a hypnotist, and I was doing a lot of the stage work, I was, at one point I was the official hypnotist for MTV's Spring Break.
Wow, so cool.
Yeah.
I just think it's fascinating. The
Oh,
whole
it's amazing. It's so incredible, because when you're doing it, when you're the one guiding the process, you're not doing as much as people think you're doing. You're really just you're a tour guide. You're introducing people to a part of themselves that they don't often allow themselves to go to.
wow.
But all the stuff that's happening is happening because those people have it inside of themselves to express this. They could, they're trying on different hats, experiencing different aspects of their own imagination. And so when I do hypnosis shows and I've got people doing all kinds of crazy things, they're creating the reality of it in their own minds.
That's
And
so
that, you
powerful.
see, that began to make me realize how profound our belief systems are. That
Oh
what you believe creates everything that comes after it.
my God, that's so profound. And that you could create that experience or help elicit that experience in such a short period of time. Like when you're
Right.
doing the show,
Yeah.
to do that. So what is it that creates that? Like for people to let go, to actually hear what
Mhm.
you're saying and allow themselves to go there.
A lot of that has to do with our state of mind. You know, we are either in a very receptive state where we accept new information and we learn from it, or in a very defended or guarded state. And most of us spend a good portion of our lives in the latter. One of the greatest problems we all face is that we're all walking through life with low-grade anxiety.
Yeah, I
So
believe
you get
that.
into a quiet room and you start to notice, how come I'm not completely comfortable and at peace? Why am I not feeling just, ah, there's something inside of me that makes me feel a little tight, a little guarded, a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit wary or vigilant. Those are the things that we carry with us and we spend most of our lives trying to avoid. I don't want to feel that way, so let me fill out my time with busy work. Let me not let myself get bored. Let me not let myself get into a quiet place. And yet all of the value of life, all the things that we can learn and all the wisdom we can gain happens when we're willing to sit quietly with that place.
Oh, that is so good. And what's the best way to take someone to that place? Oh, we've got a little bit of noise in the background here.
Hmm.
Just a second. There we go. Yeah. What's the best way to, or what's your experience of taking someone to that place? Because when you're doing the shows, like it's quite quick. You get people up there and they're in a state, like, it's amazing.
Well, one of the things you want to realize, Michelle, is that we all go in and out of states of consciousness all day long. We're constantly going in and out. So we spend, it's been estimated somewhere in the neighborhood of about 60% of our day in a trance.
Really.
Yeah. And if you think about it, it makes sense. Picture yourself driving home from work and you get there and you don't remember how you got there.
Yeah, yeah.
Where were you? You know, so we're leaving our here and now and we're going into trance-like states, but we're not doing it deliberately and we're not doing it consciously. We're not using that time to our advantage. But if you were to use it to your advantage, if you were able to decide, I'm going to put myself in that state and then I'm going to feed positive information to myself or release negative information or reframe or reinterpret something. I always talk about like optimists and pessimists,
Mhm.
right? So I'll ask an audience, I'll say, how many of you consider yourselves optimists? And people raise their hands. I'll say, how many of you consider yourselves pessimists? A number of people raise their hands. And then I'll say, how many of you consider yourselves realists? And a bunch of people raised their hands. And I said, okay, everybody who raised your hand for that last one, you're a pessimist. Because realists, people who think they're realists, are actually people who are guarding themselves against the possibility of what's next. They're constantly using the quote unquote reality as an excuse for why things aren't the way they want them to be, as if they really knew what reality was. And we don't, where our entire experience of reality is based on our frame of reference. And that frame of reference can be changed in the same way that Vince was talking about being able to like use small, what we would call anchors, like the little gold dot
Yeah.
on the back of his phone,
Yes.
right? These are willing ways of essentially hypnotizing yourself, of essentially reprogramming yourself by changing the frame that you're holding something in. And
Yeah.
you could take any moment, you could just as easily have said, well, I'm not a great skier. And that would have been a realistic statement
Yeah.
until it wasn't.
Because yeah, so true. And it's amazing when you are open to plant, I don't know if you would say plant, but those ideas, to create those ideas of what's possible. Can you share some stories of some of the most profound things that you've experienced through your work that
Mm.
have been impactful, profound, impactful for you?
Well, as you said, a lot of the work I do is profoundly fast. And that's always really fun. I just recently worked with a woman who had 11 and a half years of fibromyalgia.
Wow.
And I brought her in and I essentially spoke to her subconscious mind. Well, first I spoke to her conscious mind because you need your conscious and your subconscious mind to be on board with one another, right?
Mhm.
So what I would ask anybody who's suffering from chronic pain is, do you feel that you need that pain? Is there something that's keeping you holding on to that? Do you feel that it would be unsafe not to have it?
Mm,
What's the price you're paying for having that? What's the price that any of you right now are paying for the, not necessarily physical pain, but for your emotional pain, or for grief, or
mhm.
for some negative self-esteem, any kind of anything that's going on in your head that you're viewing as reality? What price are you paying for allowing yourself to continue to think that way? And when you bring that to the attention of the conscious mind, usually the conscious mind can say, you know what, now that you mention it, it doesn't make much sense. It's not that great an idea. So taking this woman, once we went through that process consciously, essentially talking about the value or the lack of value of this state of physical being, I said, okay, great, let's go ahead and get your subconscious mind to feel the same way. And I went through a process of inquiry with her subconscious mind. Very, very rapid, very quick reprogramming. Had her sit down, because at the beginning of the process, she was standing up, and I was using the movement of her body as a what's called an ideomotor response. You know what that is, Michelle? Ideomotor response?
It feels good. So it's breaking a pattern, right?
Well, ideomotor is ideas creating movement. So, for example, if you've ever tried to ride one of those, what do they call those things that you stand on, the segways?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right?
Okay.
If you ever rode a Segway, you know that the way that you're taught to use a Segway is they say, okay, think forward, and you start moving forward. Okay, think stop, and you stop. And you say to yourself, what is this thing, reading my mind?
Yeah.
And it's not reading your mind. What it's doing is it's reading your body, the very subtle movements within your body. And so our bodies are constantly communicating. That's why a gambler watches the other gambler for a tell, maybe a pupillary response or a slight movement of a cheek, or any number of different ways in which our bodies give away our actual intentions. So I was using watching her movements as a way of getting what her subconscious mind was communicating. Got her subconscious mind's agreement, did a little process with her, had her sit back down, did a guided meditation to have her relax and release it. And 11 and a half years of pain went away, gone completely.
Wow.
That is not unusual. We have that happen often
Wow.
because we just don't recognize how profoundly we're holding on to things and how much energy it takes to hold on to those things.
And you hit another really good point is bringing out that awareness of it first. Like, how is it somehow serving us that we're hanging on to it unconsciously?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
We've got to have both, like we talk about, you need your body, your mind, your heart, all in concert with one another. And I think of our bodies as being kind of the vehicle for how our subconscious manifests. So we're consciously and subconsciously out of alignment with each other. We've got to come into alignment. And when we do, a lot of things begin to get better. And you're talking again about the speed with which we can make changes. And it's like, if I'm holding a ball tightly and you convince me to open my hand, how long does it take for the ball to drop out of my hand and hit the ground?
Depends on
No
how.
time at all, right?
Yeah.
It's we want to heal. We want to be better. We want to be more. We want freedom. So because we want that, as soon as we can convince the mind that it's okay to have that, it doesn't take a lot of time. We don't need years of therapy and introspection and going back and doing deep healing work. Quite often, all we need is consciousness and perspective and permission.
And permission. Interesting. So
Yeah.
consciousness, perspective of what's actually happening. And
Right.
and and how do you mean permission? Allowing
We've got to give ourselves permission. Here's an example. The experience I'm having right now with Woody, right, is it's a profound experience, and this has been my best friend for 14 years.
Yeah.
And there's some part of me, and this is true of every one of us, right? There's some part of me that thinks it would be sacrilegious to be able to get over this quickly.
Right.
It wouldn't be okay. It wouldn't honor his memory for me to be able to not feel the pain of his loss.
Yeah.
Right. Now, if that's true, then at what point does it stop being true? Because
Right.
I just spoke with a woman today that I was helping who has been suffering grief after losing her mother over a year ago. So at what point does it become okay to actually let go of the burden of the pain? How much of it are we holding because we think we're supposed to, because
Yeah.
we haven't given ourselves permission to let it go? and to
Wow.
find a new way of being with that relationship. You know, I'm honoring my relationship with Woody through gratitude.
I love it. Oh my God. You know how many people that you have just helped with sharing this right now? Because I think there's so many. It's so, I don't mean easy, but to hang on to that grief um, because of those, not just because of those reasons, but feeling like if I let go of this grief, that means that I didn't love them as much as I did, or
Right.
whatever the things that we have attached to that, that we feel like if we, or we're going to forget them if we let go of that grief, or we're not, and then there's not a right amount of time, but being able to let it go in a way that then you're still honoring that relationship or that, you know, whatever it is that we're grieving the loss of, like even right now in the world where there's grief in the world huge right now, grieving what used to be and the unknown. And you know, so you know, what's your like, this is profound too, like what is your um thoughts around what we can do now right now to let go of that, because it's tied in, that grief and uncertainty is all tied together, and that's being detrimental on everyone's health right now too.
I was on a radio show just earlier with Ben Fuchs, and he was bringing up this thing that he'd read in one of my first books years ago, where he said, and this has meant a lot to him. He was talking about any experience, being able to pixelate it or make it more granular. That any experience that you're having, no matter how profoundly painful that experience might be, it's only painful from a certain distance.
Hmm.
If you get any further, if you go further away from it, it's almost like, you know, if you were looking at your grief from a different planet, it wouldn't be overwhelming. It would just be a piece of the overall tapestry or puzzle of life, right? It's only that painful from that perspective. And conversely, the pixelation comes from when you get closer and closer and closer. Like if I got close enough to the screen, eventually you'd stop seeing my face. Maybe you'd see little dots where I was, right? Like the old fashioned billboards. When you look at a billboard from far away, it's a picture. When you get closer to it, it's just a bunch of dots,
Hmm.
right? Well, that's true of grief and any kind of pain, anxiety, fear, anger. All of those feelings are actually made up of tiny little balls of energy.
Hmm.
And so, if you want to really transform yourself, if you want to really divorce yourself from the drama of your life, what
Hmm.
you do is you begin to accept the fact that this experience is happening. You stop running from that experience and you start to move towards it, and you start to like feel it for what it is rather than feel it the way you feel things when you're trying not to feel them.
Hmm.
It's a different way of feeling. And what you find is as you move into a very profoundly painful thing, like I'm very sad about Woody. What is sad? Well, sad is a feeling. What is a feeling? A feeling is a set of sensations in my body. And I then put thought to it. But if I take the thought away and I just let myself enter into the sensations, right? So maybe it's tension in my jaw, or maybe it's tightness in my throat, or maybe there's a weight around my heart. And I just move into those feelings and I allow myself to lovingly, non judgmentally embrace those feelings. Just be with them. Just let yourself feel them, not be afraid of them, not be running from them, not be trying to think your way out of them, but to just fully immerse yourself in the experience. What happens is you start to recognize what reality has been trying to teach you all along, which is that everything is impermanent,
Hmm.
right? You don't feel the same way today as you felt yesterday. And if you think you do, it means you're not being very mindful,
Hmm.
because you don't feel the same way now as you did 3 minutes ago or 3 seconds ago. It's constantly changing. But you never get to know that until you allow yourself to gently, lovingly, non judgmentally just be aware of sensation at the level of sensation. And that requires practice, it
Mhm.
requires processes. That's why what I do, whether I'm working with anxiety patients or I'm working with chronic pain patients or I'm working with somebody who's trying to be, to make their next million, whatever it is, it always comes down to the same thing, which is um, can you rise to the level of awareness where you're no longer at odds with your own experience.
Mm.
You're just watching it kind of like flowing over you. And
Mhm.
then you become impervious to all the stress of life. That's why my book, Bulletproof,
Yes.
is about like, how do you get bulletproof? You can get bulletproof by putting up armor, but
Right.
that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about being bulletproof by virtue of nothing going in.
Okay. Oh, that's a great distinction. That's huge. Like, and so, okay, nothing going in that's going to like
Damage you.
damage us,
Right,
and
right, right.
leaving room for the good stuff to come in, to let that come in, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it starts with a simple commitment. The simple commitment of I'm going to live my life from a place of positivity, of happiness.
Hmm.
That's the frame I'm putting around things. Now, if I don't feel those things, that doesn't mean I'm bad or I'm out of integrity. It means that's a light bulb that just went on that's allowing me to notice it. This is a new thing I want to deal with.
Hmm.
Okay? But you start with that commitment. In honor of Woody, I'll tell you a quick story.
Yes,
I
please.
was uh, I was speaking at the American Healthcare Association in San Diego a couple of years back, and Woody goes with me everywhere. Wherever I go, he's there. He's been my constant companion. We travel together, so he's more than just a pet. So Woody and I are traveling to San Diego from Vermont, and we've got a 3-leg journey. And the first leg of the journey went fine. Woody even got his own seat on the plane. The second leg of the journey, we were in, let's see, I think maybe Colorado. I don't recall exactly where we were, but we got to the second place, and we were waiting and waiting and waiting for the plane, and the plane doesn't show up, and it ends up being delayed like by 2 hours um, because they can't find the pilot.
Okay. Okay, that's kind of important.
Yeah, I figured that, I mean, I'll wait for the pilot. So
Yeah.
finally, the pilot shows up, presumably sober, because we end up going to our next destination, which is Dallas. And we get to Dallas, and we get out of the plane. Now, Woody's been cooped up for quite some time, and I got to get him outside. So I get him out, and he does his business. And we come back in again, and we wait at the gate. And the plane is delayed. I don't even know why this time, but it's delayed for like 2 hours. And then they put us on the plane and they take us out onto the tarmac. And then we sit on the tarmac for an hour. And then they bring us back to the gate again.
Uh-oh, poor Woody.
And they say, well, something's wrong with something in the plane. So just stay here. Don't leave the gate area because we need to fix this. And then we're going to put you right back on the plane and we're going to go. So we don't leave the gate area. And another hour goes by. And then they bring us out on the tarmac again. We wait on the tarmac for almost another 2 hours. And then they bring the plane back and they cancel the flight. So now everybody's going ballistic. People are going crazy. And I'm trying to figure out, how am I going to get us to San Diego for my keynote tomorrow morning? And how am I going to what am I going to do about Woody, who's like about to explode, who hasn't been out for hours now? Now, Woody's a very well-behaved dog. He's never he's been house trained since he was a little puppy, and he's never had an accident, but it's been now about 6 hours of him not going to the bathroom. And so I guess I didn't figure this out quickly enough, because all of a sudden Woody just lets loose and he pees on the floor of the terminal. And now Woody is looking at me like he's completely mortified because he's never done this before. And I feel terrible for him, right? I don't know what to do. Should I comfort him? Should I should I clean it? Should I get some crime scene tape and put it up? And in the middle of all this, this security guard comes running over, and she's looking very angry. And she says, "Is that your dog?" And like, I'm holding him by the leash. So I'm like, yeah. She goes, "He just peed on the floor." And I was like, "Oh, I guess he did." She says, "He can't do that." I said, I think he just did. And he can't do it. She's yelling at me. And now I'm wishing he would pee on her, right? So in the middle of all this, a janitor comes along with a mop and a bucket, and he just cleans it up, and he's smiling. He's completely happy, and it's no big deal, right? So I'm thinking about this moment, right? I'm thinking about this moment, about how in that precise moment, it could have been anything, right? This woman was going to be angry about something, and this janitor was going to be happy about something. And it didn't really matter what it was,
Yeah.
right? You could take any situation and be happy in that situation.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what I realized, because after that incident, which I call Pee Here Now, after that incident, we were given cots, because we had to spend the night on the floor instead of in our 5-star resort hotel. And Woody and I had our own cots, and I was laying on the cot. People are walking by and everything, and I'm still not 100% sure how I'm going to get to San Diego to give my speech tomorrow. And in the midst of all that, I realized something profound. What I realized was I was happy, right? There was nothing in that scenario that should allow me to feel happy, but I was, because I had already made that commitment. It was like, okay, so these situations could cause stress, they could cause tension. I could use this as an excuse for why it's going to be a terrible day tomorrow, but there's a practice or a set of practices. And when you utilize those practices, then you start to naturally fall into the rhythm of happiness, even when things don't seem like they should make you happy.
So good. If we just take that, and it's conscious, right?
Yep.
Just a quick story. I remember once seeing my car get towed away, and I actually made it to the place before my car came in, and I'm picking this poor guy at the impound lot, probably never sees happy people, right? So when I went in there, I made that conscious choice that, you know what? Hey, I've got a whatever big ticket coming in here. This is not this guy's fault. We ended up having a visit. I think he thought I was crazy. So I said to him, you probably don't see very many happy faces, do you? And he's like, what? Like, who are you and what? It's a choice and a state that we get to create. So I think when we're worn down and tired, it's harder to do. So taking care of ourselves so we can be consciously in those places. And even if we are, to know that we still, like, awareness, and then make that choice to do that, right?
That's excellent. The one of the primary aspects of this process is what's called necessary strength.
Mm.
Right? I need the strength because at first I need the eyes to see. I need to know that I have the choice and that I'm the one who made this particular choice, that I've now gone down that road versus this road. So that's like having the eyes to see that there's more ways of looking at this situation. And that's number one. But number two is necessary strength to choose which path you're going down. Because if you're worn out, more likely than not, you're going down the low road, and you're going to be reactive, and you are going to be grumpy, and you're going to be righteous and entitled. And if you can just sort of conjure up the necessary strength, which means, as you said, take care of yourself,
Yeah.
sleep, drink plenty of water, eat good food. As Mandy said, have some small wins, because those small wins empower you to have better wins and feel better about yourself. Have a vision for the future, so that even if this situation doesn't resemble exactly what you want, it doesn't mean that there isn't a better, brighter future ahead.
Right.
So there are a lot of things you can do. And in my book, Bulletproof, the fifth of the various aspects of the process is what I call assemble your lifeboats.
What is it? Assemble your lifeboat.
Your lifeboats, because the way I look at it is that it's all about, when I say necessary strength, you want to be able to tread water. You want to be able to be strong enough that when things are pulling you down, you're able to keep yourself from being pulled down. Yeah. Because if you're a strong swimmer, it doesn't matter if you're swimming in 3 feet of water or 100 feet of water. Yeah. You're still above the water.
Yes.
In the same way, it doesn't matter how big the crisis is that you're undergoing. If you're happy, you're still above it all.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Right. So, but when you're not strong enough, when you're starting to flail and you're starting to get pulled down by the enormity of whatever you're facing and the fact that you don't have the strength, yeah. Assemble your lifeboats means you want to have already prepared the strategies that you will use when you can't keep yourself afloat. And what are the strategies? Systems and people. Systems like, I always do this, this, and this when I feel this way.
Good. Yes.
And the people, who do I call?
Yeah.
I think it was also Mandy who said, there are some people you talk to who could go deep with you, and there are some people you just have chit-chatty conversations with, and you need to know who's who, because not everybody is a lifeboat. Yeah. Not everybody could you call them up and tell them what kind of a mood you're in and have them not pull you even further down.
Right. Or commiserate, right? And kind of go, right. Yeah. So good. I know we just dropped in the chat here because you have a gift for everybody right around that. Do you want to share what the free gift that you brought for everyone, Dr. Steve?
Yeah, sure. So I'm looking at it myself because I didn't remember. I'm like thinking about what do we give? Yeah. So if you go to my website to stevetaubman.com, and at the bottom you could put in your email address. What we're going to send you is a digital download of the first chapter of Bulletproof, and the secondary part of that is that I've got an audio recording of a hypnosis session. It's kind of a guided meditation. And a lot of people use that particular one to get to sleep at night because it's empowering and it's also relaxing. I'm going to get a copy to you for sure.
Using that.
So that's some great stuff. And then I also was going to recommend that if you happen to be one of the people that are struggling with anxiety, or you're struggling with chronic pain, and you're doing all the things that you think you're supposed to do and they're not working, there's a good likelihood that there's a missing link, and the missing link is often something pertaining to your level of mindfulness. So I think the link, Justina's asking to drop the link in, but I think it's right above.
If you scroll above, it's just right there, and I'll see
right
it.
above your question is where the link is. So it's so first you'll see SteveTaubman.com. That'll get you the chapter and the hypnosis session. And then if you want to speak with me and have a complimentary conversation, discovery call about anxiety or chronic pain, there are links to have to visit me in those as well. So those are both there.
So, oh my God, so fantastic. See, today could be like, we could keep it spanning because there's so much more we could talk about. I'm just so grateful to have you here. You're going to have to come back when we do this again. And I appreciate you so much. And so I'm going to finish off with my question is, what would you tell your 12-year-old self?
Invite Sybil Shepherd to your bar mitzvah.
Really?
No, that would be. Well, I think what I would have told my 12-year-old self was what I keep telling myself, because I'm a slow learner, and that is, don't believe everything you think.
Oh my God, I love it.
Don't believe everything you think. We're so quick to like hear the voice in our head that disempowers us and just assume that's reality. And again, that's the pessimist thinking that he's being a realist. Yeah. That's not reality, right? Reality is what you make reality to be. Right. And if reality is what you make reality to be, and you're finding that you're saying things in your head that are not consistent with the kind of life you want to live, then doubt those words, because none of them are true. They're simply the result of habitually used pathways in your brain that have been used so much that they seem like it's the only way to think. Yeah. Like if you're walking the same path through the woods every day, you think that's the only way to get through the woods. It ain't.
Right. So good.
It's the one you're used to.
We definitely need to talk more of how we break those and tools that we can use every day to be doing that. So yeah, I encourage you all to hop on there, but we're going to do this again. Okay. You are amazing. And let me know if you can join us later today. So anybody who gets one of the VIP packages, you guys are going to come and join us in the green room with all these amazing, whoever can drop in, get to come and see and ask your questions and stuff. And I know we're at the end of our, golly, this goes by fast. Like, honestly, we're going to have a little break and then back at it, but feel free to hang out with us. So grateful to have you here.
Well, I know that your next guest is a good friend of mine, is Eric. Eric Swanson is, chomping at the bit and sending me a little text right now. So I know he's excited to be on, and you guys who are still with us here, you're in for a treat. Eric is awesome, and you're going to get to smile and laugh and get some good content as well. So enjoy that. Hopefully I'll be able to get back and join you guys a little bit later. And it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Steve. Send you a big hug and love. And we'll see you real soon.